Hi Anti-Society, welcome back to the Antisocial Planet. Today we are getting into Vinland Saga Season 2, Episode 24, the last episode of this season. And honestly, I don't know what this episode is going to be about, which made me just run to get to watch this episode, to make time to watch this episode, because I feel like we bookended everything that we needed to for Season 2 in terms of like the big themes and subject matter of the season. Thorfinn has come a long way in his development and him kind of finding purpose, a new purpose in his life that is not revenge, that is not asklað, is not connected with the grief that he feels for his father, and is more embodying the morals and the things that Thor's wanted to represent. And he's left the farm now with Einar, and they're going off to start this Vinland together, and the farm left behind, Olmar is in charge now, has let go of the slaves that were working there, and now there's like paid workers there. Crazy wild idea. We've made at least some kind of peace with Canute, and the way that he is going about being king and his rule has shifted. So I just feel like we've dealt with a lot of stuff. There are still loose ends around, obviously, but I'm not sure what we're getting into with this other than setting up something for season 3, but I don't know what that'll be. But I'm excited, maybe, tentatively. The last episode had me crying tears of joy, so I just feel like they're going to rip the rug out from underneath me, because it feels like we ended off pretty good, and that just doesn't seem to last very long in this series. In 3, 2, 1, go. Ooh, so we do have the opener. It's always a little bit of a 50-50 chance if we're gonna have the opener for the last episode of a season, because sometimes they don't include it so that it can have some more runtime to finish things up. But I mean, considering the last episode felt like it was ending off most of the plot lines, it does kind of make sense that they would include it, I guess, because I really don't know what we're using our runtime for, to be honest, other than like setting up stuff for the next arc, which is kind of impressive, you know? I feel like a lot of the times the end of seasons get rushed in anime, you know? Like there's all of this lead up, and then you get to like the last like 3 episodes and they're like, oh, right, we set up a bunch of stuff in like the first like 5 episodes of the season, and then went and did other stuff for like the last like 10-15 episodes, and now we need to like come back to the main story, which, depending on, I mean, this series also did that. I mean, the fact that people were like, you know, Farmland Saga, isn't like it didn't go off and do other stuff and like set up a bunch of like more character driven stuff as opposed to like plot heavy stuff. But okay, we avoid the rocks now that we're in a boat. Ooh, our ice. We heading north? Iceland? Wait. Isn't Iceland where Thorfinn is from? Yeah, I mean, it's winter right now, right? Like, as someone who lives up north, like, it's not always desolate. Yeah, livestock take up a bunch of land, which I think is why Canada has so many livestock farms, because it's mostly empty land. It's mostly land that people don't live in. But you can remember at least a little bit. He was crazy young. I was like, how old are you? We're going home? It's gonna be crazy. Yeah, you have a mother and sister. How are you gonna be like, I'm not dead? That would be wild to like 6 years old. He leaves and never comes back, and the only thing that you know is that Thor's is dead. You kind of accept that he's probably dead at this point because like how does a 6-year-old survive that long, right? And then he just like shows up. Wild. Ooh. I mean, it's nice to see that it's still like there's still a village here. There's still people living and raising families, and are the people who still like remember him? That've grown up? Like all those young boys that were like, I'm gonna grow up to be a warrior. Does no one remember him? I don't know if I'd recognize any of them grown up after so many episodes. I mean, yeah, like let them decide, I guess. I guess it's like it's difficult though because like are they grieving it? Would they like would you want to put them through the grief of like, hey, this is your long lost brother or son, and then it isn't? You seem intense. Why do I feel so many things? I mean, I feel like they share some character design things. I feel like she's gonna like hit you or punch you or something. Yeah. You can't just like run at somebody. I really like not remembering him at all. He's gonna like I feel like Thorfinn's gonna remember something and be like he's gonna remember something, probably about their dad. Yeah, you're gonna have to remember something quick, Thorfinn. I know we're not gonna talk to his mom. Aww. I mean, forgotten or just been able to move on. Oh. True though, like maybe they don't remember you, but like you can like sort of remember them. Like you know that it's your mom and your sister and you get to actually be reunited with them. Like not only are there people who can't have that, like they don't know where they are, but like think of like Aenon. He can't be reunited with his mom and sister, but I bet he would love to, even if they don't remember who he is. Oh, are there more children? Do we have more siblings? Oh, you're an uncle. I mean, he does kind of look like Thor's. Like, there's some comparison. I feel like she knows because he looks like Thor's, which she would probably be able to see more because she would know Thor's when he was younger and see the resemblance, right? Yeah. Oh, y'all gonna make me emotional? I already cried all through the last episode. Why? Why do you have to do this to me? Gosh, how many times have I cried this season? Now we just gotta convince his sister. He's got like family though. Oh, we do have like other siblings. Did I just not remember? Do we have a brother? That I just didn't remember? I guess I can't judge him then for them like not remembering him. You're not gonna stay with the family? Yeah, I'm like your family now. Adopted brother status, right? Yeah. I was gonna say the final boss. Or Thorfinn. Yeah, put him down. Gently, preferably. The cough after being like shaken. We finally get our. Are we gonna get kicked? Yeah. Can't believe we team rocketed him. Like was it Thor? The power of Thor compels her. Yeah, I'm like, he's used to getting hit. Yeah. I feel like it's not gonna be enough though. I feel like he's gonna. Yeah. The only one who could take him out, his own sister. Yeah. Okay, so maybe there was like a marriage. I was like, maybe he didn't have a brother, but there was a marriage, so it's like a brother now, married in. Family dynamics. Oh, we still have the whole like warrior culture thing going on. People still want to be fighters. I have to deconstruct that. Must be nice to see that some things never change, right? The like even just the fact that the village is still here is kind of incredible. Everything? Because that's a lot. I mean, he's missing part of one of his ears, so I guess. Yeah, I feel like the shocked faces are justified. I mean, I guess like you gotta be upfront about it, right? Still, like everything is a lot. It's a heavy story, I mean, he came home mostly for a visit, and he's gotta go again, right? But it wasn't far enough. I mean, it was almost far enough, I guess. It's definitely ambitious. I mean, they're used to hard work with low odds of success, right? Let's go. Wow. Like the full circle moment of that. Like the image of him as a child, like fantasizing and dreaming over that chest with like you know, the pieces of his father's history that he'd left behind as a warrior, and now a very different person looking at them. I mean, a lot of that perspective comes from experience, right? Like he had experienced more life than a 6 year old, so how could a 6 year old conceptualize all of the long term effects of what was going on in that moment, right? Right. Wow, full circle moment again. There's so many things in season one that I didn't fully realize were setting up a bunch of stuff for season two. Of course, it's colder at night. Hello? I mean, gosh, I feel like I need to watch like the beginning of season one now. I feel like there are so many things being set up, like that were set up then and that we're calling back to. Like, and not just because he's back in like his hometown. It's like so many concepts, especially with like Thor's of like his ideology that like I want to go back and see like the exact wording of it, comparing it to like what Thorfinn has come to uh believe now. Get a call back to a lot of people. Look at him. Clean shaven, new haircut. Looks like we're going on to we've finalized the rebirth, right? Ooh, I'm fascinated on what the next season is going to be, and if we're going to do some, like, what are we going to flash back to? I actually really loved that we went back to Thorfinn's home. I knew that was like a possibility. I didn't know if he would do that in this season because he was talking about building this Vinland and moving ahead with his life, but it totally makes sense to have to bookend that. I was talking about how it felt like there were so many things that were tied up for this season in the last episode, but one of the things from season 1, beginning of the series, that was not tied up was the fact that he left home when he was 6 years old and he has not been back and he hasn't reconnected with his family. So I feel like really closing off that part of him and being like going back home, seeing his mom, seeing his sister, knowing that he has a home and a family, and getting that, I don't know, approval from his family of being like, yes, create this, go and find this land and make that place for people to find that sanctuary, right? I think is really important. And forgiveness too, of him saying, I'm sorry that for all the things that he thinks he contributed to when it came to Thor's death, right? He holds still a lot of guilt for that. And I think that's why a lot of anger was part of what he was pulling from. Some of that was just like grief. And I talked about that a lot in season 1 of anger is easier to pull on than grief because it's defensive. So it's a way of protecting yourself in terms of your emotional state, and physically protecting himself because he wasn't exactly in the most peaceful environment after that. But also it feels active, right? To be angry as opposed to sit in your grief and process through it and let go of things. It's so much easier to use anger to propel you forward because sometimes the grief is so overwhelming that you can't keep moving in a way that you need to, right? If you're going to continue with your life, you need to keep walking forward. And sometimes it's really difficult to do that when you're dealt with a very sudden and tragic loss. Him evolving from that kind of place of anger, or using that anger as a way of like also coping with the kind of guilt that he felt and feeling like he needed to prove something, to do something, to atone for that. And that has been carried on to now where he's trying to create something in order to pay off a debt of the lives that he has taken, the peace that he has taken from other people, and instead create something that is going to be that sanctuary for people. It's just, I feel like I need to rewatch season 1. I feel like so much of this season was Thorfinn progressing through this rebirth, right? This whole change in character from completely emptying out at the beginning of the season, very apathetic, very empty of everything, and then developing into the new person that he's going to be. But getting to that last episode, I feel like there are so many things that are set up in season 1 that I didn't even realize were going to be like pulled forward pointedly. Obviously, there are things that are going to be in season 1 that are going to progress throughout the rest of the story. It wouldn't make sense to set up those things and give us that information if it wasn't going to be something that was like carried forward to some extent. But this feels like far more of a one-to-one comparison, and I just want to do that, especially with the stuff with Thor's, of going back to some of his ideology and his thought process and the way that he talks, and comparing that to who Thorfinn has become and how that has influenced him, even if it's subconscious, which is, I guess, great because I gotta wait for more episodes. If there's gonna be season 3 stuff, I don't really know the details or ins and outs of that. I haven't really looked into what that situation is of whether or not we are getting a season 3 and when that will be and what the process will be for that. But fantastic series. Such rich storytelling, and I feel like this season really solidified what Vinland Saga is and the story that was trying to be told. I feel like there were moments in season 1 where it was like a little bit janky, or at least it was a little bit more difficult to pull the threads together of what the story was trying to say. Whereas I feel like this season masterfully tied everything together and really did a good way of carrying the viewers through the story and giving the space needed to certain themes and topics. And the use of silence in this is incredible, especially since runtime is pretty precious when it comes to animation of any kind, let alone an ongoing series like this where you usually have to make every minute count. And I love that this series understood that silence in those important, emotionally weighted moments is like those do count and those do matter. And I think that's very important for the overall theme of this whole series, which was like stopping and thinking and reflecting thinking and feeling and understanding what you are going through and who you are in this moment before you take the next steps, right? I feel like so much of Thorfinn's life up to this point was reactionary, and now that he has matured a lot, he needed to have the space to figure out who he was and what he wanted and why he wanted it, and to have that space and that silence to really contemplate those things. Just fascinating. I feel like a binge of season 1 and season 2 is in my future to just fully take in everything, because obviously there's a little more space in between me watching these episodes because I have to film things, but just to go through and really solidify in my brain all of the things that have happened. But I hope you enjoyed watching that along with me. You can click this playlist to go into my previous reactions, or you can subscribe to miss the next time that I post any Vinland Saga related stuff or other anime here on the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.